The Phoenix. The phoenix is one of the rare examples where immortality is not about extending life, but replacing it entirely. Originating in Egyptian and Greek traditions, the phoenix is described as a radiant bird with feathers of gold, crimson, and violet, shimmering like living fire. Only one phoenix exists at any given time, living for centuries before sensing the approach of its own end. When that moment arrives, it builds a nest of aromatic wood, resin, and spices, then ignites itself, burning completely into ash. There is no survival in the usual sense, only transformation. Within 3 days, a new phoenix rises from those ashes, fully formed and unchanged, continuing the cycle indefinitely. Because of this, the phoenix does not accumulate time the way other beings do. It resets, and that makes it one of the few forms of immortality that avoids decay entirely. Hydra. The Hydra of Lerna represents the opposite principle. Instead of escaping destruction, it responds to it. This multi-headed serpent, born from Typhon and Echidna, dwelled in the poisonous marshes of ancient Greece. Its defining trait was its ability to regenerate, with 2 heads growing back for every one that was cut off. Every attack made it stronger. Every wound made it more dangerous. At its center, one head was completely immortal, incapable of being destroyed by any weapon. When Heracles faced the Hydra, he could not defeat it through strength alone. Instead, he had to change his method, cauterizing each wound to prevent regeneration. Even then, the final head was not killed. It was buried, alive. The wandering you. Some forms of immortality do not involve power at all. The wandering Jew exists as one of the clearest examples of immortality as punishment, a figure from medieval Christian folklore who was cursed to walk the earth until the end of time. According to the legend, he mocked or struck Christ during the crucifixion and was condemned to live until the second coming. He does not regenerate. He does not reset. He continues. Through centuries, through entire eras of human history, he remains present while everything else changes. Kingdoms rise and fall. Languages evolve. People are born and disappear. And he witnesses all of it without ever reaching an end. What defines his immortality is not survival, but accumulation, memory, exhaustion, and the inability to ever be finished. Tithonus. Tithonus represents a different kind of failure. Granted immortality by Zeus, at the request of the goddess Eos, he received exactly what was asked for, but not what was needed. He could not die, but he continued to age. As time passed, his body weakened, his mind deteriorated, and his form gradually collapsed under the weight of years. Unlike mortals, who are eventually released by death, Tithonus was forced to endure the full process of aging without end. And because there was no final point, there was no relief. His immortality became a state of permanent decline, a life stretched beyond its natural limits until it lost all coherence. The Cumaean Sibyl. The Cumaean Sibyl made the same mistake. Given the chance to ask for anything, she requested to live for as many years as there were grains of sand in her hand. Apollo granted the wish, but she did not ask for youth. Like Tithonus, she aged without limit, growing weaker and smaller with each passing century. Over time, her body withered to the point where she was no longer recognizable as human. In some accounts, she became nothing more than a voice. When asked what she desired after centuries of existence, her answer was simple. She wanted to die. Stolpos. The Struldbrugs take this concept and push it further. In Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels, they are born immortal, marked at birth, and initially seen as fortunate. But their immortality does not prevent aging. They grow old and continue growing older. Society eventually declares them legally dead, removing them from normal life. Their property is taken, their relationships dissolve, and they are left to exist in isolation, their bodies and minds deteriorating without limit. After enough time, they lose language. They lose memory. they lose identity. They do not live forever. They outlast themselves. Elves. Elves represent a more stable form of immortality, but not necessarily an easier one. In both Norse mythology and later interpretations, such as Tolkien's works, elves do not age or decay in the human sense. They reach a point of physical maturity and remain there indefinitely, unaffected by time, unless harmed or overcome by grief. But they are not separate from the world. They experience it fully, which means they witness change, loss, and the passing of everything around them while they remain constant. Over centuries, that accumulation becomes its own burden. Immortality here is not suffering in the physical sense, but in the continuity of memory. Immortal jellyfish. Unlike the others, the immortal jellyfish is not a myth. It is real. This small organism possesses the ability to reverse its life cycle, transforming from its adult form back into its earliest stage when faced with stress or aging. Through this process, it can theoretically repeat its life indefinitely, not by surviving, but by restarting. It is, in effect, a biological version of the phoenix, demonstrating that the concept of cyclical immortality exists not only in mythology, but in nature itself. Vampires. Vampires represent immortality as a condition. They do not age or die naturally, but their survival depends entirely on feeding on the living. Their existence is sustained through a continuous cycle of consumption, making their immortality dependent rather than absolute. They live forever, but only by taking life from others. This creates a paradox in which immortality is inseparable from isolation, as they cannot fully participate in human life without destroying it. Ashwatthama. Ashwatthama represents one of the most extreme forms of cursed immortality. A warrior from the Mahabharata, he was condemned to wander the earth after committing an unforgivable act during war. His punishment was not death. It was the removal of it. He cannot die. His wounds never heal. His body remains in constant pain, and he is forced to exist in isolation, rejected by society and unable to escape his condition. His immortality is not a continuation of life, but a prolonging of suffering, and it does not end. Conclusion. Across all of these examples, one pattern becomes clear. Immortality is not a single idea, but a spectrum. Some forms reset time, some resist it, some accumulate it, and some are crushed under it. What mythology repeatedly suggests is not that living forever is impossible, but that it comes at a cost that fundamentally alters the meaning of existence itself. Because living forever is not the real question. The real question is, what kind of forever you are given.